This is Picks on Politics with Dan Manarino.
And welcome to Picks on Politics, everybody. I am Dan Manarino, and today we're zeroing in on the race for two big seats, New York City mayor and New Jersey governor. Picks 11 and our partners at The Hill and Emerson College have released new polling on the New York City mayoral election. Andrew Cuomo leading the pack, and we'll have more on that later on. But first, we are turning our attention to the big race in New Jersey, and that is the race for governor. Today we're talking to Congresswoman Mikie Sherrill, who was first elected to Congress in 2018. And before being in Congress, she served as a Navy helicopter pilot and then a federal prosecutor. And she goes on the record. And Congresswoman, great to have you here in person to talk about this. Great to see you.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I've already spoken to you once before about why you want to run for governor. I want to talk to you a little bit more about how you see a path to victory and some of the big issues. And I want to begin with how we kind of see New Jersey as a whole right now, right? Just the last presidential election, we saw President Donald Trump make some ground in the Republican side of things, closing the gap in New Jersey 10 points, right? And Phil Murphy struggled to really get beyond 3 points of winning the re-election. So how do you see a path to victory? And do you see that New Jersey is becoming more red?
You know, as I go around New Jersey, what I've been hearing about is affordability. And so I think anybody who's going to be successful here has to address cost of living in our state. We were just speaking before we started about how, how high home costs have gotten in New Jersey. And when you have mortgages going up like that, people move into the rental market. So now rental costs are going up exponentially. I spoke to a woman who'd retired in Paterson who had to take on a job again so she could just afford to stay in the apartment she was at. You know, I hear again and again from people about how even though they're making a good salary, their spouse is making a good salary, they can't afford a house in the town they grew up in. And for those of us who have kids, you want to be near mom and dad when you're having your kids, and they're looking an hour out and more and losing bid after bid after bid. So if you don't make housing more affordable, you're not going to make New Jersey more affordable. But that is exacerbated by utility costs, by property taxes, by healthcare costs. So that's why I put out an affordability agenda to really talk exactly about what those issues are that I'm hearing about on the ground. But at the same time, I think, to your point, I think when we see what's going on in Washington, that is the other thing I'm hearing about. Real fear about the future, fear about Medicaid and what that's going to do to people whose parents are in nursing homes and relying on that. Talking about what the Department of Ed cuts are going to do, especially for families with children with disabilities, or municipal property taxes and how that's going to impact those as we kind of compensate.
But people voted for him. I mean, in New Jersey, the gap got smaller. That's why I'm asking about a shift. Do you see a shift at all in New Jersey and how you might want to pull some Republicans to your side?
I think the shift maybe came because there was a sense that people weren't hearing about how Democrats were going to address those day-to-day cost of living issues. What I think people are seeing now, people who had maybe hoped that Trump would do that and would drive their costs down, is that the opposite is happening. So the Q1 projections in this country, I think we're about 2% growth. And then as Trump took over the economy, we're now seeing it in negative numbers. I'm hearing I just was talking to a small business owner this morning about how he is seeing purchases going down because of the uncertainty and unrest in the economy. We know the stock market is down about 5%, while in Germany it's up about 15%. In the Biden administration, we were overperforming our Western neighbors, our Western European neighbors. So we're seeing a lot of attacks. And then we have this trade war with Canada. Canada is New Jersey's biggest trading partner. So as we're embarking on what I think the Wall Street Journal called the dumbest trade war in history, we're seeing costs go up for New Jerseyans, and that is on top of firing people from air traffic control as our skies are becoming unsafe, firing people who are working on the bird flu epidemic, firing people at the FDA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So then how do you make that message for you as a Democrat resonate as a candidate for governor, right? Specifically, let's talk about property taxes, for example, right? Because I'm a New Jersey resident and I hear it all the time, property taxes, property taxes. As governor, would you lower property taxes? Do you have that power to it, and do you want to?
So I think what you have to do to lower property taxes is severalfold. You have to work with your municipalities, right, to get buy-in for a lot of these programs. I don't want to spend 8 years as governor just fighting mayors across the state. I really want to work with them on programs that are going to significantly impact cost in municipalities. We've got to address shared services, and the state has a real role to play. The governor has a real role to play here in helping states with the type of expertise they need to do just that. So whether it's municipal court buildings, whether it's school administrative costs, whether it's sharing the mechanics for fire trucks, which you would be shocked at how expensive private mechanics are that work on our rigs. So making sure that we're sharing those costs can really start to drive down costs, especially as we look to how we are going to come up with some statewide plans, whether it's building houses, whether it's addressing transportation, whether it's building out the new power economy of the future. These are all plans that we need to have municipal buy-in as the state comes up with a statewide plan.
But there's nowhere in property taxes or other taxes that you want to raise.
No, I think we have very high taxes in New Jersey. That would certainly not be something that I would want to go and doing. What I really want to do is get efficiencies out of the government. We could do that by an independent auditor at the SHBP. But all that is with this understanding that we rely significantly on the federal government to return a lot of the federal taxes we pay into the federal government. We're a net donor state, so we need that money back if we're going to run so many systems.
My next question is, how would you work with the Trump administration, where you see some right now with this back and forth between New York and the federal government and withholding federal dollars if they don't get their way on certain aspects of things? How would you work with the Trump administration to ensure you still get that federal money, but also standing up for people if you need to? Yeah,
well, there are funds that have been designated to New Jersey by Congress, whether it's for the Gateway Tunnel project, whether it's for some of the school funding that we need, whether it's some Medicaid funding. So fighting hard to get a return, to get those monies returned to us. And if the federal government's not going to do it, even if Congress says, look, we're not going to spend, then we really do need to have those federal monies stay in New Jersey. Because if the federal government is not going to fund the things they traditionally have funded, then the state has to fund them. And we're going to need the federal taxes to stay in New Jersey to do so.
That gets me to the commuter issues plaguing New Jerseyans right now. First, let me begin with congestion pricing right now, which is up in the air of whether or not it's going to continue or not. Where do you stand on the issue?
So I've been really opposed, and here's why. This is a tax on New Jersey commuters to pay for New York infrastructure. When we have a New Jersey transit system that we are desperately trying to fund in a better way. We have severe issues there, and now we see some attacks by the federal government on Amtrak. Those are the rail lines we use. So to be dumping money into New York when there are real New Jersey issues on the ground that we need to deal with, I've been incredibly opposed to.
Would you do a reverse tax? There's been this idea of a reverse congestion pricing tax where you'd have New York get tolled.
I'm not for this trade war with Canada. I don't want to get in a toll war with New York. I want to lower costs for people. That is what I've been focused on, and I don't think that's kind of the path forward.
And the reason I ask that is because New Jersey Transit was dubbed Summer of Hell last year. We're about to approach the summer this year to be determined on how this is all going to play out. How do you fix the crumbling New Jersey Transit without money? And so how do you see that playing out?
Well, you don't. I don't think there's a path forward there. I wish I had a magic wand and could fix New Jersey Transit like that. But a lot of this comes, like I said, we use a lot of federal rail with the Amtrak rail. They have catenary wires, which have been a big problem in both the heat and the cold. This gets a little, I'm not going to bore your viewers, or you'll
they
lose
just want to
them
know.
all.
They just want to know if their tickets are going up.
Yeah, we need that federal money to come into the federal infrastructure like Amtrak, but we also need to be more thoughtful about how we're funding New Jersey Transit. If you look across the world, you see transit-related development and the ratables on the parking systems or the restaurants or the homes around there on the ground owned by the transit system feeding into it. You see things like advertising on the transit system, which drives money into it. There isn't a transit system that runs simply off the back of ticket prices. That's not how you fund a transit system.
Okay, they got to leave the conversation there because we're out of time and give everybody equal time, but it was great to have you here in studio and one of many conversations in the days and months ahead, okay?
Well, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And the New York City mayoral race, everybody certainly heating up. Find out which candidates are pulling ahead in our latest poll with Emerson College, plus a push to change evidence laws in New York. How some New York Democrats want to shake up the state criminal justice system, talking to Congressman Dan Goldman right after the break.